So first of all, so I know some of you, I don't know all of you, so I'll give you a little bit of background about myself. So before becoming a coach 12 years ago, 13 years ago, I was a career public relations and marketing person. And most notably, probably my greatest accomplishment as a PR person was leading the team that was responsible for launching the Harry Potter books in North America. So my TED talk actually uses a great deal of story around that. I coach leaders, I coach teams and executives, and I'll just talk a little bit about how the topic that I spoke to at my TED aligns with what I am doing in my world in terms of my business and in terms of developing my thought leadership. So that's all the backstory that you need. I would say probably around 2 years ago decided that that the way that I would know that I was a thought leader in the space of connection and human relationships was when I got a TED. So that was kind of, I was looking for some actual tangible proof points that I had arrived. So that was my goal. My goal line was to get a TED. Now, it didn't mean that I, along the way, was not developing my thought leadership in the space of connection. I wrote a book. I talk a lot about it. I go out. I speak about it. But TED was on my bucket list, and I actually did kind of in fits and starts applied for them, but I didn't really apply any rigor to them when I started out about 2 years ago. So I would apply, I would get rejected, I would apply, I would get rejected, I would apply and get rejected. I would ask people how they got theirs. I got all sorts of different advice and felt like I was getting pulled in a lot of different directions. Ultimately, probably about a year ago, I decided to make it a real focus of my business. I knew that it was something that I really, really wanted to do, and I was willing to really put emphasis on it and real intention, which meant devoting the time and the resources to researching the right TED, looking at what themes aligned with my topic, which was around connection and particularly connection to purpose and aligned purpose, and really just taking all the steps to build my brand while I was networking with past TED speakers, TED organizers, all of that. So then I began to up the number of applications that I would put out, and so like at one point I think I had maybe 10 applications out at the same point, but I still really hadn't figured out the art and science of how to apply for them and how to get them. And so I kept on getting rejections, and so in that time I had to really build up my resilience muscle in order to be able to handle the rejections and stay in the game. My cautionary tale is you do not need to spend a gazillion dollars to get a TED, but there is a science to picking the right people and knowing who those are, and I'll share something about that in a bit. The best investment that I made once I did get chosen. Well, I don't want to jump too far ahead. Ultimately, and I think that this is a really good lesson for all of us, is did I actually receive a rejection email? Absolutely. I actually should have saved them, like J.K. Rowling saved her rejections when she submitted her Harry Potter books. I could post them throughout my office. But yes, in almost every instance, I got a letter of rejection. What I was able to do, though, which I think is something that a lot of aspiring TED speakers don't do, is get feedback. And I actually got really tangible feedback about why I wasn't getting selected. Part of it is because I really cultivated relationships with some of those organizers well in advance of applying. So I had a relation. They might have been the ultimate decider, but I was able to go back to them and say, hey, what was about my application that didn't jive with you? So ultimately, and this is really interesting, I've gotten so much advice about what my topic should be, or how to tighten my topic or whatever. And I was taking a lot of that advice, but I was taking it from a lot of different people. And so my applications, when I look back on the ones that didn't get selected, they were kind of muddied. They were a little bit all over the place, and a lot of times they didn't really tie as neatly to the theme of the TED as they needed to be. The one that I was selected for, which was Tedx Harrisburg, I was selected, and that was the one that I probably took the most time to write myself. So trusting my own instincts were really important. So at this point, does anybody? I'm seeing question here about rejection emails. So you haven't heard. So somebody here has posted that you haven't heard back after you've applied. I mean, what I haven't heard that often happens. You still may happen, but I would go ahead and still try to reach out and get an answer, especially if you know that selections have already been, well, if selections have been made, they'll post, you'll see it on the website, but it's just bad. It's poor manners if they're not contacting you to tell you that you haven't been accepted. Usually the process is, usually there's a short list. They get a whole bunch of applications. Some of them are just through the old-fashioned what people have applied for them online. Sometimes people have been recommended to organizers directly, so they kind of get moved to the top of the pile. And sometimes organizers are actually reaching out to people that they have heard are good speakers and who have good topics. So what I had always heard is that the least effective way to get picked is to just apply online. But that was not actually the case, where I did get selected just by applying online. So it's, there isn't one. I think you try everything, right? You apply online, you meet organizers, and you get out there and you speak a lot on your topic. Don't wait to get a TED to start speaking on your topic, because somebody may be in the room who is involved with a TED, may recommend you, etc. Other questions at this point, or I'll just keep on talking about the process a little bit. Okay. So if anybody has a message, you can privately message me also, if you don't want me to respond to the whole group. So I have a theater background, but it's way old, and so while I've done a good deal of public speaking, the way that I wanted to approach my TED was really very much great storytelling and monologue, and as such, I didn't need coaching as much as I actually needed directing. And so Hillary Hinkle, who is on the call right now, is a fellow coach, as she's waving. She has directed actors and coached actors for over 30 years. She was on the faculty at NYU. She's a founding member of the Atlantic Theater Company, which is a highly well-known theater company. I'm probably saying it wrong. Hillary will correct me. But for me, what really changed the game for me was to work with somebody once I got selected, to take the speech that I had written, which was a good speech, but to really turn it into a great piece of performance, and to work with me taking the script apart and looking at how that would read from the audience, because what sometimes reads well on paper doesn't actually make for a great TED. So Hillary also coached me through the actual the selection process. So I got a phone call that that said that I was a finalist and that there was going to be an interview, and where I had to present a few minutes of my speech. So that was pretty. It was exciting and it was scary. So I actually called on Hillary to help coach me about how to, to have a clear objective in mind about what I wanted to really get across, and how to streamline what I wanted to get across in that interview. So, the TED thing, there's a process. There are just many moments. There's the application, there's possibly the panel interview, and then there's the waiting, right? Did I get it? Didn't I get it? So, a lot of times you're doing your panel interview, it's like this, it's on Zoom. So how do you, where do you put your eyes, and where do you put your attention and your focus? So a lot of mindset work that is so important, not only through the applying process, but the selection process to the actual performance process. So there's the planning, the marketing, and then the actual delivering, and all those things have lots of different moving parts. I'm going to answer these questions in a moment. What I do want to say to each of you on this call is if you have even the seed of an idea that's important to you to get out into the world, getting a TED is absolutely within your reach. And it is so important to get the right kind of support based on where it is that you may feel weaker, and where you feel that you don't need the kind of support. So it might be in the writing, it might be in the editing, it might be in the performing, it might be in the mindset, it might be in just helping you get clear on what your thought leadership is and helping you streamline your ideas. So one of the things that I want to do right here and now is to share with you, so Hillary and I are concepting right now and planning to roll out a program over the next few weeks and months, training to help people who are interested in getting on the stage in all of these different facets. So if there's a link here to Radical Connection, hopefully that works. Somebody will let me know that works. And you can sign up to be alerted when information comes out. And some of the offerings will be free, and some of them will require an investment. But we think that we're developing the program that we wish that we had before embarking on this big goal. All right, let me take some questions. Do I know how many on average applications they get per TEDx event? It so varies. So there's some the really big ones, like in Seattle, Salt Lake City, San Francisco. They get thousands of. They sometimes get as many as thousands of applications for really very few slots. I know for myself. You're not seeing it in chat because I only sent it to Pamela Davis. So let me send it to everybody. That would help. Thanks for your patience, guys. So I know for mine, I think I was selected out of, I think there was something like 100 that were narrowed down then to 14, and then from that six were picked. So something like 6 out of 100 then were ultimately selected. So I think that's not, so the TED that I did was was around for 3 years. There's some that are even more established where they probably get more applications. All right, let me look at this here. Bear with me while I look at some of these questions, and keep posting your questions. They're great. So there was a question here, somebody who does have an acting experience, who's comfortable doing monologues on stage and all of that. That's fantastic background. And of course, as you would also know, that how helpful it is to have a director working with you to help you see how it's going to look from the audience's perspective. Also, there is a bit of a there's a bit of a style or an approach to giving a TED, which is different maybe from just doing a standard monologue. But with that said, also I think TED audiences have gotten pretty smart because there's so many TEDs that the audience is kind of like, he's doing that TED thing. So it's good to actually find your own style within that. But definitely even for actors, having every good actor has a good director, and having somebody who can really take you through that process and also coach you around mindset right when before you get up on the stage is just so useful. The application process, that's a question. What does that entail? And that varies, right? So every application can look a little bit different. There's certain questions that are fairly standard across all platforms. So but sometimes they want actually a portion of a video, a portion of your speech already. Sometimes they want you to actually just explain in the video what your speech is about. Sometimes they're asking for a minute. Sometimes they're asking for 3. What I found is super helpful was having somebody help me track my applications, because that's where I fall down, is getting overwhelmed with so many moving parts. So having some accountability and somebody helping me track the applications was super helpful. Just nod your head. Are you seeing the link here to Radical Connection? Okay, good. All right, great. Other questions that you have, and before I can go into some of my lessons learned. A question here was around around themes, right? Do you know what the theme is ahead of time? Great question. So sometimes absolutely, what the theme is. So for instance, the theme of the conference that I was selected for was chaos, which on its face had nothing to do with the topic that I feel like I'm an expert on or can really speak to. Although if I'm honest with myself, life is chaos, and I certainly am no stranger to it. But what I can talk about is the power of purpose and connecting to others around a shared purpose. And so there was a really lovely in for me, because my big idea was that that aligning around a shared purpose helps us navigate through chaos. Somebody needs to mute themselves, and I can't seem to do it from my. Okay, good. So that was really helpful. But I never compromised on my big idea or my topic based on a theme. That was a non-negotiable. I'm not going to sort of manipulate my message or what I speak to just to fit into a theme. And if you do that, if you try to muscle it into anyway, it doesn't really work. Sometimes they don't announce a theme, and that kind of sucks, because you're left to I think it minimizes your chances of getting selected when they don't have a theme, because they're basically waiting to see what people submit, and then they're going to decide a theme based on what people submit. So oh, it's great. We have 500 applications and 100 people have submitted around this theme of authenticity. So let's do our conference around authenticity. And now let's pick the 10 best speakers to speak to that. But when in the absence of a theme, I would say you can certainly Google TED, the top TED Talks or TEDx talks, and you can see what some of the themes are that seem to be the most popular. I know for me, purpose was a big one. So that was what I put out a lot of applications around. All right, application process entails not the theme. Yeah, I think somebody messaged me. Yes, absolutely, giving them what they ask for. like the application questions are really, sometimes they're very, very specific. Sometimes they're a little bit broad, but, and sometimes the questions are a little compound. So like breaking the questions out and really addressing every part of the question. If they're asking, what is your relationship to Flatbush, Brooklyn? Like you want to answer that question. It's specific. If you don't have a relationship to Flatbush, you probably shouldn't be applying to that TED. So, you know, there is a stage waiting for every single one of you. It's just a matter of finding what that right stage is, right? And I will also say that the process can really feel out of your control. So knowing what steps to take is so important. One of the things that Hillary and I want to be doing through our training is to really help break it down for all of you, demystify it. Where, you know, there are definitely ways to navigate through it so that it doesn't have to feel quite so overwhelming. What I would say is that if you really feel that this is important to you in your business, in your life, you have a message that you're burning to get out in the world, then just be prepared for the ride and make this a priority, because it's work. All right. I spent Hillary will like either nod or shake or nod, but I think we calculated easily 40 hours in terms of just performance prep, so I could get up there and look like, she's saying more, just so that it didn't look like I had memorized it, right? To be able to be fluid in the moment, to have it all blocked out and staged appropriately. What I will say is that you don't want to wait until you get chosen for a TED to get some skill training around your presentation, your voice, all of that, because, you know, sometimes they'll notify you 4 weeks in advance and they'll say we want you. And if you're at a fairly low level of proficiency in terms of presentation, that's a very, very quick ramp up. So it's never too early to start refining your message, to start refining your talk, to start developing your stage presence, because it can all happen very, very fast. Question, when I had my panel interview, what was my specific game plan or goal? And will the program be geared toward TED Talks only or presenting in general? There are going to be a couple of different phases. So, you know, some might be more general performance skills to help you in any kind of presentation that you're doing. And then some will be more specifically geared toward TED. My game plan, I should have Hillary participate in this, honestly. She might remember this better than I. What was my, so for my objective for my, for the panel interview, we really did, if you think about, so it was really like, what did I actually want the panel to think, feel, and experience for through that conversation with me? So, you know, so for me, like the whole, like every speech needs to have an intention or a goal. Like mine was to really get people to rise up to see the possibility of what's possible. So I needed to actually bring that to even my panel interview. Like, you know, it wasn't just about like, this is what I'm going to talk about and this is what it's like, I want you guys to actually feel what is possible. And so I think I was, well, I believe that I was successful. They told me that I was the only person that they knew that they were going to pick during the panel interview itself. They knew. They actually wanted to tell me that I was selected right in the interview, but I guess they felt like they needed to just, you know, play it cool. So, but I have to say that was all in the power of preparation, working with Hillary, working together, which is what we want to do with our clients, is actually analyzing the script, looking at what the objectives are of the script, looking at how the audience will experience what the intention is. So that was super helpful. What other questions do you guys have, or I'll go into a couple of lessons? So the question was around storytelling, the skill I've trained in, and if so, what was it? So I'm a theater major. That yeah, it's so funny to talk about college when you're almost 60 years old. I was a theater major 40 years ago, but I come from a family of storytellers. I as a public relations person for 20 years, my entire career was built on telling stories, sharing stories about my client success stories, customer success stories. So telling stories is not. I was no stranger to it, but with that said, it's an art that always can be refined, and so working with a pro like Hillary was super helpful. And did I apply to every TED event over a period of time if I were if I was selected, what? Okay, so yes, so here's my I did not apply to every TEDx because there are so many. I have a friend who actually went to he wanted to do it so badly he went to Japan to do it. I mean, they're all over the world. If you really want it that badly, guys, you can go to anywhere in the world probably and do it. I wanted to do it a little closer to home. I uh, I was giving myself really a year to make it happen. 4 seasons to apply. There are not a ton in the summer, so really 3 seasons. And I was all right. Here's how I was selective. They the quality of the video. So you can if TEDx Harrisburg, where I went, like the quality of the videos are pretty good. I looked at past years. I actually liked it. They were on the TED site, which is important because what's the point of doing a TED with an audience of 100 if it's not going to go up on the site and if it's not going to be quality? I did not pitch myself to any new TEDs because there was just too great a margin of error, sloppy, disorganized, sloppy production values, all of that. So I wouldn't do that. And but I did, I was pretty ballsy, and right out the gate, I applied to some of the biggest ones, the ones where 1,000 people are applying and all that. I felt like, why not? I applied to a lot of the ones that were much closer, like in the New York City area because I'm a native New Yorker, or Miami, South Florida because I also have a home there. So the question, if it makes it on the site, does that mean that not all TED Talks make it to TED.com? Yes, that is true. If TED has the TED.com can ultimately decide to air it or not air it. So it has to be vetted. I'm waiting for mine to go up, which should go up in December. But if they find any of the content objectionable, or if there are any copyright issues or anything like that, they can choose not to run it. How many did I apply to overall? I'm thinking 12 to 15. 15 seems right. 15 seems, and I got to tell you guys, like there were seriously moments where I was going to throw in the towel. And it was only because of good coaching, good self-coaching, me really keeping focused on why this was important to me that helped me get through it. But the resilience. Am I freezing for others? Or just Hillary? Can you all see me? No. Okay. I said, yeah. So being able to handle the rejection is part of the process, and it would have been really helpful in hindsight. And the program that we're building, a lot of it is based on what I wish I had known 2 years ago. The hindsight is to have somebody who could really objectively help me see my strengths and weaknesses and direct me to what the right resource was. I did not need to hire writers. I'm a really good writer. I did not need to hire an editor. I'm a really good editor, but for some reason I got it in my head that I needed all of that help. But I did need help in terms of, refining my performance, things like that. All right. let me just make sure I'm answering all these questions. Okay, TED Talks can have thousands of applications. I do believe that's so. New ones are risky. So what's the sweet spot stop? The sweet spot between an established TED and a new one? What's the sweet spot? I think a TED that's been around like 3 years or more is a good one to go after. If I were to do one that was much newer, I'd be taking a chance, right? I'd be checking out the backgrounds of the organizers to see what kind of production backgrounds they had. I would be very cautious about doing it. With that said, if it's really important, and you're not getting any of the more established ones, you might consider doing it, and taking a chance. If I had to do it again, what would I do differently? Yeah, answered it right. Did I attend TEDs to do my own research on them? Absolutely, absolutely. I've also gotten involved on a voluntary basis with some TEDs, sort of behind the scenes, just to be able to really see the ins and the outs, and forge some really great relationships with TED organizers, to be able to understand the nuances, to be able to help my clients. I'm just looking over some of the lessons. I think we covered a lot of them. Yeah, one of the nicest things that the nicest honor that I received from Tedx Harrisburg was to be the closer, to be the final speaker, which is really great because they knew that I would bring a level of professionalism in terms of my experience as a speaker to the event, which felt really great. And I'll also say, and I think this is just so speaks to the power of preparation. I've spoken professionally, publicly, my entire career, whether it was as a marketer or as a coach or as a professional speaker. I have never felt as prepared as I did the day that I did TEDx Harrisburg. Largely a testament to Hillary and just the sheer the sheer desire to really knock it out of the park. And I think it really paid off. So do the work, and when you get on stage, you'll just be so in flow, you'll be able to enjoy the moment fully.